inspections with the colors of the wires and stuff, pretty easy to know how to do that, so I think it would be helpful. That's my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else? Bob?
I'd like for us to at least talk about what our next step, how we move forward.
So we should vote to adopt this or make changes to it. Does anyone want to make a motion in that regard?
I would make a motion that we adopt this job description and move forward with seeking ways to fulfill these requirements, with the understanding that our current code officer has agreed to continue with us on an interim basis as we search for this amended description.
Carol?
I'll second.
Can you repeat that?
Can I make an amendment?
Let Bob repeat it and then
Okay.
you amend.
Go for it.
I move that we approve this job description and move forward with seeking ways to fulfill the requirements of this job description, with the understanding that our current code officer has agreed to continue in his current role and hours while we're doing the search.
You get that?
I've got it recorded, I'll get it all.
Yeah. Carol?
So my suggestion is that code enforcement officer continuing be a separate motion, because that's kind of what Peter suggested, and he did send me the language at 4:45 today or whatever. So I think we should separate those.
I agree, and can you just strike the part of that when I talked about the code officers? I agree that Peter's language is appropriate. Will be
So
appropriate.
can you just withdraw your motion and to just start?
Re-motion.
I
One
would
more
move
time.
that we approve this job description and that we move forward with a search to find the people and or other ways in which we fulfill these requirements.
And
Second.
second, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? The second part of that.
I think I should, I'd like to make a motion that, that pursuant to Title 38 MSRA Section 441, CEO Jim Butler continued to serve in the office of Code Enforcement Officer until a successor has been appointed and sworn into office. And I can just give this to you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
And Bob's the second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I would add a comment that I really appreciate Jim being willing to do that.
Thank you. What else is that? Yes.
Will you let me know, so MMA, Vermont's website, town website are the common places where we advertise for job descriptions. So if you think of somewhere else, let me know.
Yeah, the guy in Augusta had a suggestion. I don't remember what it was. It's a different professional website, like. And so I'll ask him.
Will you provide me the
And
information
then
when
do
you
we
get it?
have advertisement described?
What do you mean by that?
Do we have a job advertisement put together?
No, but in these kind of situations, what we do is we kind of take the old one and then look at the updates, and it's just a paragraph saying, you know, looking for so-and-so, and then attach the full job.
Could you maybe run that by us just before you post it so we can make sure we're good with it?
Okay.
I'll find out. I can't remember. It's like, you know, Building Association of Maine or something.
It's not in, was it Indeed?
No. They might pick it up.
Bob, did you have something?
No, I'm good
Okay.
with this.
You're good with that, Vika? All right, moving on to 23-064 to hear an update on the dredging project.
So in the packet, there was some information about where things stand right now. So basically, we had to wait for Army Corps of Engineers to go out to bid to get a company to come back and do the remainder 11% that was not done of the project. Anticipating initially that the costs were going to be creeping into $1 million range for Army, putting town in a position of having to be responsible for 20% of that. They did have 3 different companies that bid. In the end, Procter & Company submitted a bid at a little over $575,000, which was a couple $100,000 less than what was anticipated it would be. Putting the town in a position of out of the money that is currently been bonded and the money that was set aside at the last town meeting. With this particular bid, it's gonna put the town with having about a little over $123,000 in excess funds, which is a good thing. Having said that, there are still two issues that are unresolved that the town is gonna have to deal with. One is the eelgrass mitigation and possibly the request for equitable adjustment from Burnham. So having that extra money will be good position for the town. So potentially, in 6 months, if Army Corps comes to the town and says, this is what the cost of eelgrass mitigation is, the town has some funds potentially to be able to contribute to that, or just, if something happens, eelgrass will have to be dealt with regardless, but this is just a good position to be in, rather than having them come to us and say, we need another $123,000. So it's great.
The eelgrass mitigation, is that something, is it because more eelgrass has grown since the work was done, or didn't we have to deal with that the first time around?
Yeah.
Yes, and the basically where it stands is it hasn't really been dealt with. There was an area where they tried growing in a different part of the state to try to see it to kind of replace what was taken, and that wasn't successful. So the position that they're looking at now is potentially seeing if the town can kind of just like pay their way out of it, instead of working through the process of having to have it be replanted in other parts. But the last conversation I had with him, where it was left off, is they will have more information as far as once the second part of the project is rolling and they have an idea of when they're coming and what the process is. They'll have more detail as far as which direction they're taking with the eelgrass mitigation. The one thing that they were able to provide is within the documents that I gave you, there is project cost and estimate. So for the town, a lot low estimate and high estimate, there is a number that that could be anywhere between $350,000 and $450,000 that it could cost. We just don't know what that would be.
I know. No, Kristen, you say you.
Any questions?
Good news.
It is good news. Finally.
Okay. We'll move on to 23-065 to authorize the town administrator to pay Ernst & Young invoice in the amount of $1,066.50 from Selectmen Contingency Fund 8300-3160 in fiscal year 2023. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second, to Bob and Carol.
No, Mark.
I'm sorry. Yes,
How can we still expend from the last budget? How does that work?
Same way as, so in front of you, there's two different warrants. There are still bills that have to be paid out of the previous budget.
Because of when it's being invoiced?
Yeah, so the bill came to us
Yeah.
in the previous fiscal year, selectmen contingency requires a selectmen approval, so.
Yeah. Also, I just thought maybe the balance would carry over automatically into the
No,
general fund.
No, as long as it's dated for the previous fiscal
Okay.
year, we paid out of the previous fiscal.
Thank
year.
you.
any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Then we're on to 23-066 to authorize the town administrator to pay Benson and Baird invoice in the amount of $1,377.28 from Selectmen Contingency Fund A300-3160 in fiscal year 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And Carol second again. Anybody have any comments or questions? Carol?
Well, I just feel since I met with the planning board, the town attorney reviewed the warrant articles and the ordinance language, and at town meeting, if you recall, the ordinance language was rejected in part because some people opposed the non-resident thing, but the other part was that there were some sort of inconsistencies or confusion with the language, and so I hope that if we're paying an attorney to review the language, I'm surprised that you would have a layperson, identifying problems. And so I guess I'd like to ask the town administrator to ask Natalie about some of those questions, because I think I understand that she reviewed those documents, right? So I think, and Aaron, I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but it was some undefined terms and. Right?
Yeah, I think there's some undefined terms. I wasn't around for a bunch of the discussions. For some of the plan board meetings.
But I feel,
Right, but I remember the issues involved, the number of inconsistent terms, some things that created more. Confusion than they resolved.
right, so I guess I feel like we need to send the message back to Natalie politely, but that, something didn't work out correctly. I don't know if it's her review or whatever, but I would hope when we get to town meeting that things are pretty buttoned up.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor?
Can I get, I was trying to catch you before you made that motion, so I have, the bill you just made a motion for was for May. There was some discrepancy for April bill, where, we had overpaid, and so we were figuring that out, and so I know that amount. And it is actually on the copy of the bill that you got, so I don't know if you can make an amendment. It is the $2,600 dollar amount that would need to be approved to be able to pay the previous tax as well.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So,
On the
The first,
Jensen Bard,
yeah, so I had, when I put this together, what I was certain about that the town needed to pay was the $1,377. What I was uncertain about is if you look at the second page of the bill where it said past due balance was $1,309. So in a May bill, I'm sorry, April bill, when it was sent to us, there was a discrepancy, and when we looked into it, we had, paid more than we needed to on one of the bills, so we were waiting for a credit. And so once that, then this is what the difference was. And so this is the amount due for the month of, May. I mean, for the month of April. So we do owe the company $1,309 for the month of April.
In addition to the 1,377?
Yes, so the
So
total
total.
balance through $2,686 is for April and May. So that number is in fact accurate.
Carol,
And did we approve a prior bill?
Yes,
So I guess I'm a little confused
So
about.
just didn't get paid.
So we already paid the April bill?
so in April bill was, all right, hold on.
That was the first one we paid out of the contingency?
No, let me, so a bill was paid a couple months ago out of the legal budget. And, there was a mistake where, just like with this, it said previous balance due, the bookkeeper paid the previous balance too. And so it accidentally overpaid one of the months. This was before we got over the budget. And so what through email conversations, which I have them all documented, it came out that we owed less on the April bill than what was, the April bill never got voted on through selectmen contingency, basically, because I held it off until the discrepancy was figured out. With it figuring out this, $1,300 is what was due for April.
So do we owe $1,309.06?
For the month of April, correct.
The total amount we owe is.
So the total amount is $2,686.34. Is what is needed, but I didn't have that figured out before we put the agenda together.
Okay, so I'm sorry, are you suggesting that the motion that we just passed should be revisited?
amended.
That's all.
Yeah.
If you can amend it to have the amount be that $2,600 number, then
Pass
that
it,
would.
I gotta revisit it, is that?
Yeah, because on,
I'm trying to figure out the correct Robert's rules procedure here, so
I think it's revisited, you're right.
would an amendment be?
I mean, at this point, I would just recommend you make another motion for $1,309. So then you have two different motions for two different.
Yeah,
amounts,
that was the,
and keep it.
that was the basis of my question. So, may I?
Please,
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town administrator to pay, out of the selectmen's contingency from, 23 budget, $1,309.06 for the balance of the Jensen Baird invoice.
second,
but, suffice,
Yeah.
okay. Anyone have any comments, questions, anything? All those in favor? Okay, we're good there. Anything in other business? Mark,
Sorry, Bob. Good. Very quickly, Vika had asked me to go over, she comes on Wharf with, Matt Ridgway, manager of the CTC on Tuesday morning. I went over, we met with, the Public Works Director from the town of Yarmouth, Eric Street, and a young man who was representing Tom Moulton Paving Company from Yarmouth. They're going to do yet another temporary repair for now where the wharf meets the pavement. They're going to remove the existing plywood piece that they're using for a foot traffic ramp. They're going to inspect what's down in there for material, which includes some material that they placed and some temporary styrofoam spray that they put in there. They may add some more material, and then they're going to place a 6-foot square piece of 1/2-inch thick steel plate for now, which will go on to the planks by 2 or 3 planks and onto the pavement, and they're going to blend that in with some pavement to try to make it more of a smooth transition. It's still a temporary fix. They may look at a more permanent fix around Columbus Day with the thought that the traffic would slow down and they'd be able to pour some concrete, but I'm not sure that will happen this year or not, according to how this temporary fix holds up. It was a good meeting. We also talked about the general condition of the existing wharf over there, which is Yarmouth's property, which I think Gibson family built in, I'm gonna say 1982 or 3. So it's got some age on it. And before we left that meeting, Matt Ridgway and I asked the public works director to check with town manager at Tupper of Yarmouth about a structural inspection that was supposedly done on that Cousins Island wharf. And I saw an email where he may have sent that to Matt and I, so if he did, I will make sure to forward it to everyone unless maybe you were included on that, Vika. But an inspection was done in 2021 by someone. It could have been Barney Baker in his firm or somebody else, but I just thought it was important that we know the condition of that wharf as the town of Yarmouth / town of Shebig before we recommend doing anything at all over there. So that's how that went. Any questions from anyone?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And Bob, did you have something?
Yep.
Anybody else? Vika?
I have a few communications that I can share under other business. I don't know whether you would want to do any motions or not, so it probably would be better to do it here. One is, I had, received some communication from John Lang inquiring about the right of way to, Shore, down Soul Road, the road that I live down. There's the steps down there were significantly damaged, after the December storm, and the steps not so much, but the rocks were misplaced to the point that, our public works department wouldn't be able to get down with any kind of equipment to move them because they're pretty big rocks. And so John and another neighbor of his are getting a quote to do some stone wall reinforcement for the work that had been done a couple of years ago on their property. They're just getting a preliminary cost estimates, and then they would go through DEP and all the different proper permittings. But he raised the question to the town about what would the town priority or the town responsibility be for maintaining or fixing any of that. So they would, when the work is done to their property, they would have equipment out here. So it would be easily be able to reinforce some of those big boulders. And I told him that I would look into it because I know that it's the right of way, but I don't know the exact details of whose property in it, whether there are easements, things like that. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because he did say that he was probably going to reach out to some of the board members just so that way people were aware of it. And if it is something that would be a, town responsibility. I don't know what the costs would be or any of that or anything like that. I wasn't really able to provide him with any information, but either way, I just said that I would pass that communication on to you, just so you were aware that that discussion is happening on their end.
We know who first placed the stone steps there?
There was, a major project that was done a number of years ago. His understanding was that, the towns had some contributions for the cost of the steps or something, but I have not had a chance to dwell into the details to find that, so I wasn't sure, of the history of it. I wasn't sure of, whether town did contribute funds or not, or what the town does own, other than knowing that it's right away, so.
Maybe we would need to know who paid for the steps the first time before we sign who paid for it this time.
Where is this?
So,
At the end of the major shoreline stabilization project that was done by several owners several years ago.
Yeah, the one that started.
I'm not positive, but I believe that you're going to find that there was some town resources put into that, so,
It's good to know that.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Matt, Ridgway reached out to me, and asking, if CTC, so Kim had an idea of, a temporary shelter that he said could be very easily put up. It sounds like almost like a sail type of a thing, right at the top of the, Stone Wharf landing where they're collecting, boat tickets. And they wanted to know if it was okay to try to put that up, from, his conversation. It didn't sound like it would involve any public works, it wouldn't take up any space. It's something that they would reinforce to the railings, just to provide a cover for, the employees, and he wanted to know if it would be okay, to put that up. And I told him that, and he said that it would be very easy to be able to take it down if there was an issue. And I told him that I didn't see an issue with it, but I would bring it up to you in case if the board did support that.
Carol,
I guess I'd just like to see a drawing of what they're talking about, because it sounds like they're talking about attaching it to the railings or something.
Yes.
So maybe they could just give us a picture of what it looks like. I mean, I don't necessarily have an objection, but you're not talking about a separate structure, you're talking about attaching something to the railings. What is, I don't quite understand what it's.
Where they-
looks like.
Sounds like a sunshine.
Sunshine over like where they take the tickets and where the
Yes.
bulletin board
Yeah,
is.
they were just, I think
So
it's,
just
they're
build
just
the top.
trying to provide some shade right at the top of the, Stone Wharf landing. But I
And so
can
this
ask
would be
for,
CTC, you know,
CTC would be putting it up and taking it down.
on the town's property.
Attaching it down properly.
anybody else?
I agree, before we say yes, we should see a picture. I think
I don't think I have an objection, but it's a little hard to know, and it's a little strange of, you know, having CPC. Add something to the town or. Maybe, I don't know.
Is it something we could possibly see? Could we approve it tentatively?
Yeah.
Subject to sending a picture out via email, and then if anybody has any objections, we could exercise our right to back up a little bit.
That's,
I have no serious objections, I just would like to see what we're talking about, I can't quite visualize.
I don't have any objection. I personally think it's a town's responsibility.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going.
But I don't have any objection to it. I know that we've turned down in the past requests to put waiting sheds down there, but speaking only for myself, the only reason I turned that down was there wasn't a good plan of where to put it and how it was going to help. This seems like a little bit more of a sensible, at least short-term solution, so maybe the town, maybe it's the town's responsibility to purchase it and make sure that it's safe.
I guess that's where I'm coming from, because I'm not sure I think the town that manages the work, we're responsible, it's our property, so I kind of feel like we should be doing this, not CTC. And, you know, I think we should find out what they're proposing, what the cost is, and my suggestion, I would agree with Mark, I think it's our work.
So you want to put up a sunshade?
I guess I want to understand, you know, no, not really, but I mean, I guess I'm not that comfortable with having CTC put it up, just like we wouldn't allow another entity to build something else or put something else on the board. I guess that's kind of, it's again, who's in charge, I don't know, of the board. I'm not trying to be, you know, obstructive, but
Anybody else?
I just, so if they put up a sunshade and it came down on someone, then we would be liable. Because it's our wall.
well, but I think we have an obligation to the public to make sure it's done properly. If we have a third party put it up.
That's what I'm saying, is like, we would be liable for that.
Right.
If something ever did happen, probably it wouldn't, but.
I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. That's kind of where I'm from. And maybe we could just ask Matt to.
I'm sorry, did he specify it was for sun or is it when it rains or both, or do we know?
No specifics of that, just the specific over the location.
I imagine that as someone who commutes, that it's for the
Ticket for.
deckhand who's scanning people's tickets to be out of the rain, the sun. Frankly, it doesn't do a lot for the passengers because they're lined up out in the weather. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's, you know, it's great for the deckhand.
So the consensus is that we get more information
Yeah.
from Matt.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay.
The ball field, so I received, last week, late last week, on Wednesday. I received a call from, Steve Offond, with an official complaint about the ball field not being taken care of properly. And that, he had spoken, with Ann and the school board was aware of it, and he knew that they had looked into, trying to find somebody to do the mowing at the ball field, but it hadn't been done. And with activities coming up that weekend, they needed the, ball field to be mowed. I had, his impression, he had just met with Ann, was that the superintendent was under the impression that I gave her the idea that the public works going to be mowing it indefinitely until they find a replacement. And so I had reached out to the superintendent and asked that they keep me in the loop about what the process is, and that I would talk to Public Works and have them be able to provide that assistance to mow the lawn. But at this point, they were being asked less than a 24-hour notice, and it was around the time the tractor was coming, so there were potentially a lot of other important tasks that Public Works had to do that had been lined up, that were putting them in the position of having to stop to do that. They did get up there and they got it mowed, so to my knowledge, the programs ran smoothly. But that's just for you to be aware of that discussion and that conversation that took place. The superintendent did say that she will keep me in the loop, and that I did attach Jen to that conversation as a chair, so she was aware, just so that way the town was in the loop of it. But I do hope that they find somebody or a plan is developed without just falling automatically on Public Works, with an expectation that it was going to be done by them whenever it is needed.
Anybody have any comments or questions about regarding the office? So they've mowed it twice now, 3 times. Anybody have any suggestions on how do we get that fixed?
Could I ask what budget that would be being managed and paid out of? Is it the school budget, the rec center budget?
Public Works.
When Public Works is mowing it,
No.
or
No, before
school budget?
Public Works got involved, whose budget was
It was
paying?
coming out of the school contracted services budget.
Okay, thank you.
Carol,
Do you know, do they have somebody that mows the rec center property?
I don't know that. I don't know who does
I
that.
mean, we get into this problem, I guess, I don't wanna get into it in detail, but it's the rec center who needs the facility in the summer. And the school is not, you know, I mean, it's sort of. I think we had said, or I had said in the budget season that we kind of needed to sit down in with the rec center, and I think this is one of the issues that have been discussed, because. You know, it might be that they have to contract in the summertime, since they're the ones that want to use the field. We're not charging them to use the fields or anything, so. Anyway, they had a contractor mowing the fields who was no longer doing it, right?
Correct. And they haven't been able to find somebody.
And the person who mows for the rec center declined the opportunity
Oh, okay.
to mow the school, not just the ball field, but the school contract. He did not want to look at the school contract, whether he would take on the ball field as part of the rec center contract that he already performs or not.
Because it's all town property, it's the rec center. It's kind of weird, we're separating all of this out to me.
Yeah,
It's a problem for me.
I don't have a suggestion tonight.
no, it just gets back to that age-old problem of there not being a memorandum of understanding.
Right.
Between everybody.
I don't want that to fall off our radar.
No, but I don't think it's up to Public Works to come
I
running
agree.
every time. You know, it needs to be mowed, and it's gonna need to be mowed a lot more, because I know they have all kinds of activities coming up. And I wondered if, you know, there's talk about. You couldn't just have a kid go up and, you know, mow it as a summer job anymore, because they have to have liability insurance. Doesn't, not necessarily for the kid, but doesn't, like, if someone volunteered to go up and mow, doesn't your homeowner's insurance cover that?
I don't know, we could find out, but I do think some towns, hire interns in the summer, and that's one of the jobs they do. I mean, it seems like there's a solution, but I think the question is whose responsibility is it again? And also, to me, it's town property. And if we're mowing the rec center but not the school, it seems kind of idiotic. Because it's all one owner. So I think it needs some coordination.
Need some research and possibly a machine that's purchased by, you know, an entity which would be, you know, town, school related. And then that machine would have to be kept somewhere out of the weather and maintained reasonably, and then someone would have to use it.
Yeah, or the contractor that's mowing other properties can mow that property. I mean, I don't know why, I guess I have to understand why that's the case, but. Seems insane.
It's too bad that it's such a messy problem, and it just seems like
Yeah, it seemed crazy.
it used to not be such a messy problem. All right, we didn't really get anywhere with that. Any more communications, Vika?
We're still in their business, but no,
Oh, well, you were done. Okay, yes,
no, that's it, I think. Good.
no other business. Now, do you have any communication?
No, that was what I wanted to share.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I guess, I thought I saw something, Vika, about this 106 wind power, wasn't that in our packet or am I hallucinating? Because I don't have it in there.
There was a request in the
The
packet.
Bureau of Energy Management, you know,
That
about,
would have been in the harbor master's report.
well, there was a whole package, right?
There,
Oh, that's
the harbor master asked that I forward you an email with a lot of attachments.
So it wasn't in our paper packet, but it's in the.
It's on the online package.
So I think if we wanted to say, we have to make a decision tonight, because the deadline was,
30 days to receive the letter.
which was the 20th of July, I remember that, it will be the 20th of July, is the deadline. So what that letter is asking is, we want to be sort of a stakeholder in the process. And it's basically, if I understand correctly, it's sort of historical. They basically, as part of looking at potential cable pathways in from offshore wind towards the mainland. This is called, you know, the 106 survey, which mostly has to do with archaeological and historical aspects, but I guess bottom line is, I would recommend we be, you know, sign up to be in the loop, because I don't see any downside. We can just do nothing, but at least we have the option, but we would have to respond by whatever the date is. I think it's July 20th.
It looks quite the packet.
Mhm.
And there is the potential a cable can come through Casco Bay towards Cousin Island, yeah, Cousin's Island, apparently.
Well,
Well,
there's a lot of talk in the industry about how the challenge with bringing cable from offshore wind in is, what do you hook it to when you get there, when you get to in? And one of the most logical sites is in fact Cousins Island station, because there's already big wire going from there to the grid. So
I think,
that's why we should.
right, I think the two sites are Cousins Island and Wiscasset.
Yeah.
So we should say yes, though I didn't understand, so I read it, that it's really a historical archaeological survey, but ultimately we should participate. So can you just respond to them, Vika, and, you know what we're talking about?
Yes, I do. I'm just trying to load it up, but the internet is not being very.
Do you need a motion to be able to sign it, or just direction?
A motion wouldn't hurt. I'd have to look at it in. No,
I'm scrolling to the letter right now, but they've got every aquaculture application for the last million years.
I know, I don't understand that, but.
Okay, here it is. Dear potential consulting party, the Bureau of Ocean Energy and Management, serving as lead federal agency under the National Historic Preservation Action and Assessment for wind energy research release on the Atlantic Outer Coastal Shelf, out of Maine, PDFs, electronic versions, a letter of invitation to consult, which requests your response within 30 days of receiving, and also included is a map of the area of potential effect. If you would like to be a consulting party to this project, please respond to an email address, Gulf of Maine's, blah, 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 with the following alternate, with the following. The letter is cut off or scanned. Contact an alternate, I guess, from your organization to receive correspondence. I would make a motion that we ask the town administrator, I would make a motion that the town administrator send in a letter saying, yes, we would like to be a consulting party in response to the email from Gulf of Maine, section 106, dated June 27th.
does it show a date on there?
The email was dated June 27th, and the response is required within 30 days of the email.
I thought the letter was somehow the 20th was in my mind, but.
Josh seconded.
Yeah, I got it.
Carol,
You got the second?
Yeah. Any discussion? We're good.
I guess I would say in the correspondence would go to the town administrator, because we have to designate somebody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All those in favor? All good? Anybody else have any communication? Right, we are moving on to approve the minutes from June 21st, 2023. We have
I
a
make a
motion.
motion, we approve the select board meeting minutes from June 21, 2023.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Unanimous. Items to be placed on a future agenda. What we got? Go for it.
Oh, you were there. Sorry,
I was sworn in, so.
sorry.
Sure. Okay, so. Okay, items to be placed on future agenda.
More of a question, where do you stand? Are we still waiting for more survey information?
No. We have a survey that was done. And it was provided to us. Actually. I think we have, I have to double check, I have to look at the notes, I don't remember whether Selectmen asked for it. An old work that I have to follow up on or not, but we do have the initial survey and. Where the discussion was left off was when we finished off the budget, we would pick up that discussion then.
I would ask that that be an update on the status and discussion of future action be added to a future agenda. Now that it's past budget season. Oh, no. Road commission.
Mhm.
Process and procedure. Now that the road commissioner is the five of us. How exactly are we going to do that? Is there a way that we can streamline communication so that we can easily get input from the road commission, the town administrator, to public works, with some sort of feedback loop? I'd be happy to help work on that. I think we had to talk about it in the meeting.
Okay. And then we just had September 12th discussion for our
For your,
retreat.
I had this, was it 12? I had the 16th written down.
Sorry.
Wednesday the 16th, but
You're gonna be on
The
this.
16th.
That's why we changed it.
Oh,
wasn't
it's
it?
just, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, the 16th, sorry.
yeah, 16.
So we'll talk about that.
There'll be a broadband update.
Yep. Yeah, we're done. And, all right, Jackie?
Regarding the Venice Cove Road survey,
Mhm.
I had requested as part of the agenda item that a representative from Monahan will be present to provide explanation of the survey.
Could we, first go over the survey that night and put our questions down? And then
However you wish to approach it.
I think it would be good to go over the survey with it in our group, and if we have further questions that we can't answer, then we'll get Owen Haskell to answer it. Yes,
I would rather not pay the money to have them come out here, knowing how backed up they are. That's not gonna be a cheap proposition. I'd rather, as Jen said, develop questions, get them the questions. But not pay them money to come out.
you guys good with that?
I just, I don't think you're gonna have much luck getting them out here,
There,
you know,
okay,
as busy as people are right now.
thank you. Anything else?
No, I think that's a pretty. good list
Will,
for
will there
us.
be, any audit information by then?
I might have an update on where things stand. That would go under the TA report.
Okay. Okay. All right, I think we're all set there. Thank you all for attending. We are now, can I get a motion to move into executive session once everybody takes a little break?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA 456C, discussion of real estate. Is use.
Josh is a second. Nice. Thank you, Chris.
You guys.
Yeah.